Hey y'all, what's up? So, I've been watching a lot of Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan podcast interviews all day, just good background while I'm working. Um, and these guys, they're all tapping into something, but they're all scared to kind of go and look at it from a spiritual way. Joe Rogan is spiritual in the sense that I do mushrooms and psychedelics, and I can see the spirit world and stuff. I'm talking about prophecy and religion and text. But religion is a really polarizing word, okay? Because religion is perfect for the Illuminati because A, it can either create slaves who believe everything a textual book says, or B, religion makes people rebellious because all of the oppressive things that the texts say. So either way, it both creates dumbasses. I don't mean to say that, but religion as a way of life is not, how can I say this? It's not the way to spiritually grow. The Bible has truth in it. Men created the religion after the Bible. Christians were not called Christians during Jesus' time. They were just believers in God. Okay? And they were not Jesusians. They were told the truth for the first time in human history when Jesus was walking around preaching. So you've heard it been said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I say turn the other cheek. Okay? Now, you can disagree that Jesus wasn't the Son of God, but you can't disagree with that moral unless you're some thug gangster or something who gets offended easily and just wants to, destroy anyone who disses you. But I'm talking about spiritually evolved folks, not the average Joe on the block, the redneck celebrating Christmas because his daddy's daddy's daddy did it. And that's another thing. These holidays give humans an excuse to sort of, well, one, be together. So, well, it's Christmas, so I got to see my family or something. And then when you take away the smoke and mirrors of the whole history of Christmas and Easter and Valentine's Day, even all these little holidays have no place in a true believer of God's people, in my opinion. If you know that December 25th was about, it was when the Jews sacrificed their kids to the fire, to the Baal worship, because Baal, Tammuz, Nimrod, Dionysus, they're all born December 25th because they're sun gods. Okay, so it's really easy for skeptics to just throw that out there and say, well, because that's fake, all religion is fake, there is no God at all. But that's like there's layers, it's like an onion. There's a deception on top of a deception on top of a deception. Okay, and that's how the world runs. That's supposed to be that way. That is the test. Revelation 17:17. I'll give the kingdoms unto the beast until the word of God is fulfilled. So if all the kingdoms are run by the beast and they all love Christmas, what does that tell you? There's a small fringe of people who know the truth behind the truth. And I'm just trying to help spread that kind of stuff. So religion is brainwashing, so that's why it creates skeptics. But religion introduces you to spirituality, but you have to find the real stuff on your own. You're not going to hear it in church. You're not going to hear it from your parents because they just want you to be a good little boy and just, don't go to jail or whatever. So they'll just do anything to make you not bad. And yeah, most religious people aren't bad because they're too timid, honestly, to be bad, and they're just too dumb to understand that their religion is not correct. Okay? If you want to believe something, you need to read the book and say, okay, I believe that. You don't need to ignore the book and then just do all the 20 holidays a year and say you're Christian. That's almost the exact opposite of being Christian, is by going to church and doing Christian stuff. That's not it. Charity is Christian. Seeking truth is Christian. Being nice is Christian. Not celebrating pagan holidays disguised as Christianity. Not putting up trees because they look pretty because it makes you feel warm and fuzzy from nostalgia. We all know truth. Nostalgia is the enemy of truth. If you want nostalgia, just watch Care Bears your whole life, okay? We're here to grow and evolve and mature, okay? And a lot of people think, well, growing up so I can do drugs and drink and have sex, that's what being a grown-up is. No, that's what being a kid is. Honestly, when you're finally able to do that stuff, that's when you realize that stuff isn't as fulfilling as what you thought it might be as a kid. It's like, oh, I just can't wait till I can do it, whatever I want in my house, when I finally live alone. When you live alone is when you're like, hey, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? Or maybe that's just me. There's a lot of sad people out there who are just lonely, depressed, have anxiety, don't know where to go, don't know what to do, don't know where to begin their journey, their spiritual journey. We're all here to find out who we are. Okay, because Oscar Wilde says the greatest mystery is oneself. And yet we're taught that ourself is awesome and perfect and we're the shit, we're the boss. And that's going to give an attitude to where you're not going to want to improve yourself. I've talked about this in the past. So egotism is a huge problem. And especially when religions say, come to our religion so that you can pray to have money. Come to our religion so that you can have a great life. That's all propaganda. And it's for them to give you some fantasy world, once a week when you enter the church doors. But when you're at home, it's just like, what else do I do now? Well, what you do is you break out your Bible and you pick it up and read it, if that's your religion. Okay? And what you do is you read other books too. Even books that say religion is bad, or that Jesus is bad, or God isn't real. Because if you know he is, you can read that stuff and have an argument for it. Like I was watching the Sam Harris interview with Ben Shapiro. Shapiro's obviously an Orthodox Jew conservative. Sam Harris, strict atheist, but they're having a lively, intellectual, respectful debate. But Sam Harris, he keeps pointing out, well, you can't say the Bible is written by God, if today you can point out passages that seem immoral to you. You can't just overlook those. And he's correct in the sense that, yeah, the Bible hides evil passages. But you know where I'm going to go with this, right? Yeah, Yahweh is Satan. Okay? There's a few chapters where it is the real God, like Isaiah. That's basically the real God. Isaiah 66, Isaiah 1. That's the true God that sent Jesus, but not the God of Numbers 31 who killed kids, not the God of Deuteronomy 28 where he made parents eat their own kids because they were starving. I mean, I don't know how Ben Shapiro could possibly justify those verses being a Jew. Okay, as a Christian, I can justify it. I'd say, oh, well, that was Satan pretending to be God. Because here's 15 other verses that Satan and God show the same characteristics. And then I'll go over that, which I already did a million times. I'm not going to do it right now. So he's right in the sense that there's evil. But again, if you're an atheist, you're not going to have the kind of correct mindset to see why it's there. If God exists, and he does, why would that be in the Bible? Because the Bible is a test. It's not just a story to read like a Stephen King book. It's more like a James Joyce novel. There's puzzles and hidden things and math and gematria, and something is mentioned a few times, but in the exact same context, so you can pick up context clues. So yeah, I guess that's my thought of the day. The Bible is like a James Joyce novel. You think it's just some story, but once you get into it, it starts having all this variation in character and color and all this crazy stuff. And Sam Harris even said Jesus promoted slavery because he said, slaves, love your masters. That is not what Jesus meant, dude. And that's the exact kind of typical simplistic atheistic mindset that people have for the Bible. Yeah, I said atheists are simple-minded. If you want science to be your God, which it is, then you think everything else should be 2 + 2. The world doesn't work like that. And yet, I can logically deduce from the context clues that all those evil passages were not the same thing as Jesus. And that's why Jesus never said, I disagree with my father on this, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It says don't commit adultery, but I say when even looking at a woman lustfully is adultery. He's disagreeing with the Old Testament, aka that's not his Father, because he and his Father are one. His Father is perfect. So why would Jesus be disagreeing with those passages in Matthew 5? So that's that whole thing. But the issue with atheism and its harmful effect on your life is that it gives you free roam, what's the word? Free range to think, do whatever you want, and say, well, if it feels right to me, then it's okay. I know I'm not supposed to kill or steal, but it's just a piece of, Snickers bar. It's like, I'll say it again, God's not a dumbass. He knows when you steal. He knows when you think evil stuff. He knows when you want to plan something bad. Even if you don't do it, he knows you were trying to think about it. And he's going to call you out at the pearly gates or whatever. He's going to read you a list. He's going to check it twice. Say, oh yeah, remember when you did that? That was fucked up. I forgive you though. You remember when you did that? That was fucked up. It's just like there is a record of our entire lives on a kind of spiritual realm. And I'm the kind of Christian to read past life regression books, okay? I see a pattern in the spiritual realms that those things were describing, specifically Michael Newton books, really amazing testimonies. I see parallels with that, and Swedenborg's writings in the 1700s describing the spirit world of heaven and angels and how our thoughts are feelings, and there's no privacy in heaven. So if you're thinking nasty shit, everyone else is going to say, oh, well, he's a gross spirit, But if you're just positive and exuberate openness, that's the kind of attitude we need to have in this life. Like, honestly, if we shared each other's feelings, what kind of moral, ethical impact does that have on not only your actions, but your thoughts? Not only your thoughts, but your feelings. How can you put your feelings in check once you know everyone else can feel it too? If everyone had telepathy, would you want people knowing your thoughts? Obviously, most people say no, and it's scary. But as studies have shown, specifically in Dean Radin's book, the Noetic Science, I think that's what it was called. I got it in London, so I might have had a different title. But yeah, Dean Radin, he already does PSI studies, and he gathered all the best studies to show there is something intangible. If there's someone in another room and one person sees a color, that color will somehow be in the next person's next room's head. Next person in the next room's head. Okay, so all of these psychic phenomena are just a mini preview of the afterlife and of heaven and what's going to be going down. Okay, and even in the past life regression books, it said, the younger souls are more of a white light kind of thing, and then as you get more mature, it's in red then orange, but the deepest and where the Lord is purple. Okay, purple, indigo. You hear that indigo child stuff all the time. And so, of course, that's what Swedenborg says. So the past life regression book, where people are walking around in the spirit world in between lives, which is really fascinating, is saying the same thing as a 1700s Christian mystic. And it's no coincidence me and Swedenborg are Aquarius, so of course I'm gonna find that stuff out and resonate with it. And it's the age of Aquarius, so I'm taught to be open-minded during my own age, whatever. So anyway, I guess with this video, I just want to warn people of, yes, you can believe in God and still have a brain. In fact, you'd be an idiot not to believe in a higher source with all the hundreds of thousands of patterns, okay? Not to mention the hundreds of videos I've posted showing some of these patterns. Not to mention all the math that could not have been created by some genius mathematician guy. There's codes deeper than we could ever fathom in the Bible. Like, we don't even know what to look for. There's stuff we don't even know what to look for that is there. Like Ben Shapiro says, well, we can't use the Bible for everything, Like, I don't know how to fix my car from the Bible, but who knows? What truths are there? Some people say the Bible hides the atoms of atomic chemistry. We went over that with John Kostick's Gematria channel before, how one of the verses just happens to be tying in chemistry. You'll go into that later. Where I already went into it, I'll put a link or whatever in the description. So it's one thing to have a brain. It's another to be closed-minded. And that's what atheism is. They want to say religious people are closed-minded, which yes, most of them are. You yourselves also have a tendency to not study what you already don't believe. Okay? I'm bored, so I study things I don't believe. I look at the Quran and say, oh, that's interesting, but wrong. But I'm still looking at it. Most people are taught, especially these days, if you don't like something, ban it. If you disagree with it, shut your ears. It doesn't say debate it because you know you're right and you have valid points. It says, no, don't debate it at all. You don't have to. He's wrong. You don't have to debate it. He's just wrong. That's what we're taught today, and it's dangerous. And it reminds me of a Nietzsche quote, of course. It says, the surest way to corrupt the youth is to teach them to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. Okay? So if y'all think alike, then I hold you in higher esteem. That's politics today, y'all. So ultimately, I don't know. I just think I just want to give people faith and hope, but also a brain cell or two, because the atheist community has too long just said, well, there's one evil thing in the Old Testament, so how can any of it be true? Well, if you knew the true conspiracy, if you knew the key is that Yahweh is Satan. And not just convenience sake, like there's a pattern there. Obviously, Hosea 13 says Yahweh is like a lion, a leopard, and the bear. But Daniel 7 says the beast of Nebuchadnezzar's dream was a lion, a leopard, and the bear. And then Revelation 13 says the beast also is a lion, a leopard, and the bear. So why does Hosea say Yahweh, God, is a lion, a leopard, and the bear? Because these are context clues, and I can name 15 more of them, as I already said. So the issue with atheists is they don't know the conspiracy, so they think any evil means I can't believe any of it, and it's just wrong. And the religious people, they're just being oppressed in general because they don't read, let alone study their own text, let alone know that reading the right translation, let alone the right language. It's like religious people are taught to not study. You go to a seminary, you're just taught to memorize. You're not taught to do textual criticism and exegesis. That you're supposed to do that on your own. Well, I'm a man now, so I'm doing it on my own. And what I'm finding, they're not liking. Okay? Like, I really just want to be a lecturer. I'm not really good at public speaking. Like, I get nervous in front of the audience. And no, imagining them naked does not help me. It does not help me at all. And plus, this quarantine stuff has made me more, introverted, more than I already was anyway. So, I don't want my life to be YouTube. And by the way, I have 40 pages of the book done, so I think that book is going to kind of be my blueprint for my essays or something, or any potential talks I may give, because I have no credentials, dude. No credentials, but all the information. I'm literally between a rock and a hard place right now. Okay, it's like I feel like Goodwill Hunting, but for religious reasons. Not just math. Like Matt Damon, he's good at math. I like math, but I like the implications of the math. Not just, here I can do a backflip and juggle some numbers. It's like, what does it mean and why was it there? But, that's just me.